Black was planning a rook for rook capture after rook c8, but now white wins a rook. The first move looks like a mate in one gone wrong. The FIDE World Cup quarterfinals is now over. In this video we will be looking at the most exciting matchup between Yi and Vitigov. The first two games, the classical portion, was drawn. 25 minutes each plus 10 seconds, drawn. 10 minutes each, 1 win each. 5 minutes plus 3 seconds, 2 draws, and now we have the Armageddon phase. Yu has white, Vitigov has black. Yu needs to win, and Vitigov only needs at least a draw to qualify to the semi-finals. Let's begin. E4, E6, F4, Armageddon, here we go. White has to win, hence white goes for a risky setup. D5, E5, C5, knight F3, knight C6, C3. Preparing D4, but it's important to not play D4 so early. Knight H6 and now knight A3. You don't want to play D4 because queen B6 and it looks like white center will be falling apart very soon. Black will take on D4 and play knight H5. That's why white prepares it with knight A3. Knight F5, knight C2, now D4 looks good, so black puts a stop to it with D4 himself. Already white looks a bit squashed. How can the bishop on C1 get out? Bishop D3, preparing queen E2, castle, bishop E4, knight H4, and now white blunders on move 9 with bishop E4. Better was just a castle, and after take, white has a nice advantage. Bishop E4 is coming. If you stop it, then B3, the bishop can come out to A3. White can take on D4, bishop E4, white has a nice position. Bishop E4 played in the game, knight takes G2 check, king F2, knight F4. Black is already 2 pawns up. In this game he only needs a draw to qualify for the semi-finals. D3, knight back, attacking E5. Take, bishop G5, bishop E7, pieces coming off, taking on D4, and now taking E5. Black is still 2 pawns up. Take, queen H5. White tries to create threats, attacking the knight on E5, rook can come to G1. However, black's king is not the one that is in danger, it is white's king. In this position, knight D7 was played, but black has a winning move straight away because of the placement of the king on F2 and the knight on D4. Black can play queen C5 immediately, winning the game. There is no good way to protect the knight on D4. If you go king E3, you can win the queen on H5 with knight C4 check. After queen C5, there's no good way to protect D4. It's almost over. In the game, knight D7 played, black is still winning. Rook G1, knight F6, queen E5, queen is now centralized, and now knight takes E4. Perhaps king F8 doesn't look right because the rook on H8 is boxed in. But there will be a way to get out. H5, H4, the rook can go to H6 or H5. If you go rook C1, perhaps he was worried about this, knight E8 puts a stop to that. And a lot of the squares are guarded. C7 is guarded as well as G7. Queen can come to D6 and H5 is still a plan. In the game, knight takes E4 check played, take, and now F6. Possible to play queen F6 check, trying to get the queens off. But perhaps black thought the endgame was very difficult. Take, rook C1, planning to come in. Also rook can come to G7 and knight can come to B5. Very difficult to defend practically. But there is a way with rook B8. Defend B7 first. If you go rook C7, planning rook G7, bishop D7 cutting it off. Rook G7 looks like there's pressure, but there's a really cool move here. Just kick the rook out with king D8. After the rook moves, then the king can come back to E7. And black looks like he will be unravelling himself. A rook can come to C8, A6 might be played, don't need it here, but after rook C8, black will be unravelling. If you go back, rook C8, take on H7, but then E5. It looks like black will be getting counterplay. After E5, knight F5 check, and then rook C2 check. Not to worry about the passed H pawn for white, the king can come back to F8. Should be easy. In the game, F6 played, queen H5 check, queen C5 stopping castling, and here black blunders with queen E7, giving white a superior endgame. Take, check, and then rook g1, and this is very unpleasant pressure. e5, the knight comes to b5, a6, knight to c7. White is taking over. Rook b8, knight d5. All these dark squares around the king are covered. f5, knight can come into f6. F takes e4, rook c7. These dark squares, e7, g7 covered. The other rook can come in. Bishop f5, rook g7, threatening mate in 1, bishop g6, rook d7, stopping rook d8, b5, h4, h5, and now rook g7 coming back to hit the bishop. Black was planning a rook for rook capture after rook c8, but now white wins a rook. The first move looks like a mate in 1 gone wrong, beginning with rook g8 check. After take, white now takes the other rook. After rook g8, rook c8 check, and then white has done it. King f7, knight takes g8, king e6, king e3, rook a8, and then rook takes a6. The semi-finals will be Ding versus Yu and Rajabov versus MVL. Check out a video over here, and check out one more video over here. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel at the same time. Thanks for watching, until next time.